Overthinking is an anxious tendency that I encounter often in my psychotherapy practice. There are many ways we tend to overthink, such as rehashing the past, replaying the same scenario over and over in our head. Worrying is another form, in which we obsess over what the future might bring. I can empathize. When I was younger, overthinking decreased my quality of life. Research has shown that overthinking can decrease energy, limit creativity, and cause sleeping problems. Eventually, I knew I needed a healthy way to cope, and I created a career out of helping other people do the same. Here are 3 strategies I use every day to stop overthinking. 1. Positive reframing. This is often confused with toxic positivity, which asks people to think positively, no matter how difficult a situation is. Positive reframing, on the other hand, allows you to acknowledge the negative aspects, then asks you to evaluate whether there's another way to think about the situation. Perhaps there are benefits or things you can change about it. Example. You constantly find yourself complaining, "I hate being a boss." On top of all these deadlines and responsibilities, it's hard to manage so many complex personalities. It's emotionally and mentally exhausting. "My job just sucks." Venting might feel good for a second, but it doesn't solve anything. And you'll likely continue to dwell on how much you hate your job or how bad you think you are at managing. To practice positive reframing, replace the thought above with, "Things are challenging right now and I'm feeling disconnected from some things on my plate. I wonder if I can change anything about this situation or my expectations about it." This thought pattern gives you the power to change your situation. You could start small by examining what important tasks needs to get done first, then either delay or delegate the rest until you are feeling less anxious. The key is to take a step back and deal with things one at a time. Notice when you're stuck in your head. Overthinking can become such a habit that you don't even recognize when you're doing it. Start paying attention to the way you think so you can become aware of the problem. When you're replaying events in your mind over and over, or worrying about things you can't control, acknowledge that this isn't productive. Thinking is only helpful when it leads to positive action. Keep the focus on problem solving. Dwelling on your problems isn't helpful, but looking for solutions is. If it's something you have some control over, consider how you can prevent the problem, or challenge yourself to identify 5 potential solutions. If it's something you have no control over, like a natural disaster, think about the strategies you can use to cope with it. Focus on the things you can control, like your attitude and effort. 2. Write down your thoughts once, then distract yourself for 24 hours. When our brains think we are in conflict or danger, a built-in alarm system goes off internally to protect us. One thing I have found success with is writing down my feelings and waiting at least 24 hours, or just a few hours if it's an urgent matter, before replying or taking any sort of impulsive action. Then, I put that draft away while I distract myself with another task. Example. You just received an email about something that went awry. You are upset, your heart starts to race, your breathing gets shallow, and you become hyper-focused on what's going wrong and why it's your fault. If you respond to the email while your brain is in alarm mode, you might say things you'll regret later on, which may then fuel the vicious cycle of overthinking. Writing negative thoughts down takes the power out of them. I often don't feel the need to take action based on my anxious thoughts once I've written them down. Challenge your thoughts. It's easy to get carried away with negative thoughts. So, before you conclude that calling in sick is going to get you fired, or that forgetting one deadline will cause you to become homeless, acknowledge that your thoughts may be exaggeratedly negative. Remember that your emotions will interfere with your ability to look at situations objectively. Take a step back and look at the evidence. What evidence do you have that your thought is true? What evidence do you have that your thought isn't true? Schedule time for reflection. Stewing on your problems for long periods of time isn't productive, but brief reflection can be helpful. Thinking about how you could do things differently or recognizing potential pitfalls to your plan could help you perform better in the future. Incorporate 20 minutes of thinking time into your daily schedule. During that time period, let yourself worry, ruminate, or mull over whatever you want. When your time is up, move on to something else. And, when you start overthinking things outside of your scheduled time, simply remind yourself that you'll need to wait until your thinking time to address those issues in your mind. 3. Practice specific gratitude. In psychology, we know that expressing gratitude can increase our happiness. It can help us contextualize our frustrations against what we love and help us connect to something larger than ourselves, whether that's other people, animals, nature, or a higher power. But I find that repeating the same gratitude practice over and over again can become rote and diminish the returns. For me, it can start to feel like a meaningless chore instead of a mindful practice. So, I like to practice something that I call specific gratitude. Example. Instead of writing in my journal every day that I am grateful for my health, I'll write something like, I am grateful that I woke up today without any back pain and have the ability to do today's workout. This helps me stay focused on the here and now, rather than overthinking on general abstractions. Tomorrow, I might still be grateful for my health, but I might specifically be grateful that I have enough energy for a long run. Learn mindfulness skills. It's impossible to rehash yesterday or worry about tomorrow when you're living in the present. Mindfulness will help you become more aware of the here and now. Just like any other skill, mindfulness takes practice, but over time, it can decrease overthinking. There are classes, books, apps, courses, and videos available to help you learn mindfulness skills. Change the channel. Telling yourself to stop thinking about something will backfire. The more you try to prevent a thought from entering your brain, the more likely it is to keep popping up. Change the channel in your brain by changing your activity. Exercise, engage in conversation on a completely different subject, or work on a project that distracts you. Doing something different will put an end to the barrage of negative thoughts.